Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. So I want to talk a little bit more about this delisting situation, the situation of the bankruptcy, and a few different dots that I'm kind of connecting at the moment. And I really want to get my thoughts out there on this situation to see what other people think of this kind of route that I'm paving in my head as playing the devil's advocate, kind of realistically thinking of all the bad things that could happen from all of the different events that are currently transpiring in our sector and around our sector. So we all know by now that the delisting looks to be true, even though there's not been an official update specifically from the other routers they would use to get information like this out. So hopefully we do get a proper official update soon and specifically outlining which states are affected, because something I've noticed is I've had emails from other people saying, well, I'm from this part of the United States and I haven't had the email and it's still there, it's available. But like I said, the delisting is not actually until next month. So a lot of people who would be affected probably may not have got the email yet, or specifically not reached the time period of the delisting, so to speak. With all this being said, my current sort of theory that's going on is we're kind of I don't want to say a patsy, but I think Terra Luna Classic's being used as a bit of a scapegoat, if that makes sense, because the delisting specifically itself is in the United States, in certain states, Delaware being one of those states. We've seen the filing for bankruptcy in Delaware in the United States. I'm kind of making a very, very, very faint connection there and saying to myself, well, maybe this is actually kind of interconnected, and maybe they're trying to possibly confuse whoever's involved in sort of dishing out justice that's related to the crash and what happened. The possibility that we're getting tarnished either with the same brush or specifically with the brush that Luna should be tarnished with. The reason why I'm saying this is because specifically, depending on where you look, it's confusing to say the least. Crypto News is saying Crypto.com delists Terra Luna, and they specifically mention that Luna and Luna Classic both experienced a 10% drop, but they don't say specifically it's Luna Classic. So there's confusion in the wind. Now, some of these key measures aside, supposedly from this article, there's other key measures that have been put in place, like the suspension of trading for Luna, Mira, Anchor on both the app and the exchange platforms. And then furthermore, new deposits and loans for Luna have been halted. So this is a little bit strange. I was able to buy and sell a very small amount of Luna here in the United Kingdom, so it's definitely not suspended here. I did double check that before I went in, but like there's nothing, there's no announcements on crypto.com to back any of this up. The only official backup we've got for any of this that we're speaking about here right now is this email that's been floating around. But everybody needs to understand, don't freak out. It's jurisdiction based. So this isn't something that's affecting Europe by the looks of things. But once again, are we being tarnished with the same brush? Because if we go and we look at official court documents, we look at the glossary, and we have a deep dive in and look at exactly every single thing that's mentioned. Okay, UST, Luna, Wrap Luna are all mentioned, but we don't see LUNC on here. We don't see the Terra Classic word specifically on this document. I've seen it on another document, but this one specifically, where they're outlining all of the different ins, the outs, the ups, the downs, the lefts, the rights. This is the glossary for what's mentioned. So to me, it looks like USTC, Wrap Luna, and those kind of assets are going to be the ones under the microscope. Now, this cross in the roads, right? This fork that's coming, it's so hard to approach something like this, because ultimately the reason why getting delisted on different exchanges across board would be so problematic for a chain like us is because we don't have someone like TFL who's running the roost, so to speak. So there's no one to take the legal standing behind things to cross the T's and dot the I's, so to speak. And that's specifically why we could never get listed on Robinhood or Crypto.com or places like that, because we don't have officials that are officially in charge of the blockchain and have their names down on paper. And this is always going to be an issue when everybody's sort of like, well, you know, we need a leader. Well, maybe at this specific time, playing devil's advocate, we do need a leader. We need someone to lead us through all of the chaos that's probably going to be building up in the months ahead. And it's only going to be those who are strongest and stand by the chain that are going to be here throughout this tough time that is coming. Now, with these official documents, there are loads of different ones floating about. This is a copy of Terraform Labs' public statement that they released. You can go and grab this from their Twitter. Anybody can get involved in this. But once again, the connection between the Delaware bankruptcy and then these delistings coming, and we don't really know what's going on. I feel like there's a shotgun, it's loaded, but they've only fired one shot out of the shotgun, and there's still another shot in the background that needs to be fired. But what I'm trying to get at here, what really is worrying me is, once again, are we as a blockchain being tarnished for something that we didn't do, we didn't have any involvement with? And if we put ourselves in Luna's shoes and say to ourselves, well, what would they do? Well, they would throw us under the bus. They'd gain what they could and they'd throw us under the bus. It's as simple as that. It's a dog-eat-dog world in crypto. And they would just look at it from a business perspective. So maybe it's time for us as a blockchain to actually look at things from a business perspective and say to ourselves, do we need a new strategy? Do we need to play devil's advocate and think to ourselves, what are the worst things that could be happening? Do we want to be part of this huge court case going forward? Or could we take the brunt now, do some kind of rebranding, some kind of rename, and do our utmost best to ensure that we've spoken to Binance and possibly ask for Binance's help with the rebranding? I wouldn't see why they wouldn't want to help with rebranding, considering they're still burning every month, even after CZ Binance specifically being not removed as CEO, but removing himself as CEO and then replacing it with Richard Teng. All of this being said, right, it's all food for thought. And like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here and I'm thinking about all of these different things that are elaborating. And what I'm seeing is we're being tarnished, and the mass media are going to be very confused. They only get a quarter of the story a lot of the time. And the last thing we want is to be dragged through this court case. I think it's definitely happening. We know it's happening. We can work together more or less in a united fashion to overcome this, because this is a very substantial hurdle. And whilst I've been saying for so long about everybody bickering left, right and centre, there comes a point where the threat externally is far greater than any of the threats internally. And I think no matter what happens, it's going to be a very tough time moving forward unless we don't start to take these things into account. We don't start to think to ourselves, well, there's all these different warning signs that something weird's going on, something weird's afoot. You're seeing different mentions of Luna Classic, because if you think about it, right, this email that's going round, this should say Luna's being suspended surely, but it's not. It's Luna Classic. And that makes me wonder. That's why I make the faint connection a little bit more visible, so to speak, because like I said, we're not seeing this email for Luna holders, unless I'm wrong. And there are Luna holders who have had this, but I haven't seen that. So like I said, is this a shotgun that's half cocked and there's still another shell ready to fire, ready to go off? And I think what I was going over here on crypto.com with this delisting news, wherever this person's got their information from, I think this is the other side of the shotgun. Is it's going to be another one for Luna, and you're going to see all these delistings and suspensions for all of these different assets like they're explaining here. They are saying existing Luna earned deposits will not be affected, which is really important because a lot of people use crypto.com. It's a very, very good application to get in and out of crypto, I would say. I don't use it to trade. It's terrible for trading, but to get in and out, the card service they provide, it's all really helpful. So with a rebranding, right, if we did choose to follow that path, it's kind of like wiping the slate clean. And as much as we've always tried to think to ourselves, well, this is probably like the worst thing we could ever do, we're being forced towards a fork. And there's all these weird things going on. There's all these strange happenings, all of these different connections we can make. We need to strategize. We need to think about what and how big this wave is that's coming. And as much as we can see in here that they're going to play ball, they're going to go, this isn't just XRP apparently sold a coin that was a security at the time. It's not like that. This involves many different people on many different levels, many different coins, involving many different scams. I mean, Chai's not even mentioned in here. It's mentioned in other documents, but this one specifically, they don't mention Chai. They don't mention Jump. But that's the other document where LUNC is mentioned alongside all of these other assets. So we need to be really careful, and we need to see these warning signs. And I know a lot of influencers aren't going to be covering this and sort of diving into the deeper parts of this. They're simply probably just going to be saying, is Luna Classic dying? Headline that, and really just talking about the possibilities of this whole thing shutting down. The way I wanted to end this video is in a very specific manner. And everybody needs to understand that this blockchain works on validators. The United States would have to go and shut every single validator down across the whole world in order to shut the blockchain down. Does that mean we are okay and we're safe? No, of course not. They can apply bottlenecks, they can apply delistings, they can do all sorts of different things to make it very hard for us to do something, and then we just become another meme coin. Whereas right now, if we act now whilst we're still listed, I think we've got more of an opportunity of remaining listed with a rebrand than we have of being removed, then rebranding, then asking for relisting, if that makes sense. A lot of things to think about here, a bit of food for thought for everybody, and just filling you in on kind of like what my mind's going through at this point. Folks, drop a comment, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. These things really help the channel. They actually help the algorithm, and it really helps out. The algorithms are absolutely ridiculous on YouTube, but ultimately it wants to be fed these likes. It wants to be fed these comments. So just help me out, do what you can, and I'll keep the content pumping out for you folks. Other than that, if you've got LUNC, you can delegate with our node. I've got auto compounding specifically for our delegates over at hccfactory.com. It's nice, simple. It's not filled up with all different spam and stuff like that. And it's just specifically for HCC node delegates. Check out the Patreon if you want. You can gain access to extra perks there. But other than that, stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and as always, catch you in the next one.